Hey y'all, I'm Brooke Hoover, a Louisiana native, actor, writer, and comedian. I've lost 100 pounds through diet and exercise, or shall I say, lifestyle changes. My 20-year and counting health journey has taught me that just like taking a diet pill for weight loss, body positivity doesn't magically happen overnight. I'm working on regaining my self-esteem and rekindling my love affair with Cajun and Southern comfort food in a healthier way, all the while juggling eating as clean as I can, reestablishing myself in the entertainment industry, which, as we know, is historically fat-phobic, all the while showing my inner fat girl some love. That's fat with a PH. Pretty hot and tempting. Let me tell y'all a tale or two.
The ever so popular, or are they unpopular? I'm not quite sure. Food fetish, which may or may not be related to a fat fetish or a fetish of people watching someone else eat. To each their own, to each their own. For Valentine's Day, which if you are listening to this in real time on February 13th, 2023. I am airing this the day before because I was like, what can I do that's Valentine's Day inspired? But that's also fat girl styles. And I was like, yep, I have a lot of feelings about foot fetishes. Well, yeah, foot fetishes too, but food fetishes, fat fetishes. So, y'all, being a person who struggled with being chastised for being in a larger body for almost all of my life and for being judged when I'd eat anything other than like a celery stick, I must say the whole food fat fetish culture is very triggering for me. I have a lot of thought and even more feels on this. And I need to kind of like rant and to kind of like let it out a little bit. Who wants to join in? Oh, you do? All right, come on in. Come on in. Okay. So first off, why is it okay, acceptable, even sexy for a slender person to gorge and eat and beast? But when a large person does so, it's considered, ew, gross, or worse, comedic fodder. Since the dawn of time, I think bigger people have always been on board to make fun of themselves first, because if we make fun of ourselves first, then we are in on the joke instead of being the joke, right? Okay, so y'all, let's take that Carl's Jr. burger ad that was back in 2005. Do y'all remember that one? I'll refresh y'all. Okay, so Paris Hilton, which if y'all don't know who she is, she's the Hilton Hotel heiress. She's like a DJ now, supposedly, and living her best life. And she looks like a Barbie, her body included. And she's washing a car in a sexual way. And then she eats a big old burger, a Carl's Jr. burger, in a sexual way. And it's okay. It's acceptable. It's hot, as Paris would say. But put a bigger person in that ad and we take away the sexiness. And now it's a Saturday Night Live sketch. Like if Chris Farley, God rest his soul, were still alive, he would have done the spoof on SNL. Like, can't y'all just imagine it? I actually Googled that ad because as I was writing this, I wanted to be all scholarly about foot. Why do I keep saying foot fetishes? I promise I do not have a foot fetish. I grew up dancing and flat-footed my whole life. You do not want to see my feet. So I wanted to be scholarly about my food fetish and do my research. So I said in my head, well, Chris Farley, God rest his soul, has passed on, but couldn't they do a spoof with someone like maybe Celeste Barber instead? And y'all, lo and behold, in 2018, Carl's Jr. was in on their own joke, like this here fat with a PH girl, Brooke Hoover, had to be throughout middle and high school. Be in on your own joke. Be ahead of the game, right? So Carl's Jr. did an ad in 2018 where Celeste Barber filled in for Paris Hilton. And if y'all don't know who Celeste is, she's an Australian comedian who I and most of the world love. She does something on her Instagram page where it's like Celeste Barber challenge accepted. And she will spoof something like that a crazy like model or dancer is doing, and then she'll like reinterpret it, including her own outfit, props, and dance moves, oftentimes in her own way. And we all accept it, myself included, because the way Celeste does it, it's not like she's making fun of her size. She's making fun of her every womanness. She's making fun of her every personness. She's showing that she is imperfect, not simply because of her size or because of her lack of makeup or because of her lack of perfectly coiffed hair. She's showing that in comparison to the ridiculous expectations of perfection that society has created, like the model look, the body size, hair, makeup, ability to move with grace despite a weird fashion choice, that Celeste is just a regular person like all of us who will never live up to that BS standard, and therefore Celeste is making a mockery of the ideals of Hollywood, the ideals of the fashion industry, and not of herself. She's not making fun of every person. She's not making fun of larger bodied people. She's making fun of this ridiculousness we have all imposed on ourselves. She's brilliant, as the Brits and Aussies would say. Do Aussies say brilliant? But I love that word brilliant, but it doesn't work when Americans say it, and it doesn't work when I say it in that fake British accent. Actually, was that a combo of British and Australian? I'm not sure. But y'all, not everyone is Celeste Barber, and not everyone does it quite so brilliantly. For example, another Aussie who, sad to say, I'm not a fan of is Rebel Wilson. I feel as if she was always mocking herself for her size in any show or anything that she did when she was in a larger sized body. I just was not a fan of Rebel Wilson. Again, that's just my humble opinion. I'm not saying anything bad about her, just not my cup of tea. All right, so the food fetish thing, in my humble opinion, and that, again, that's all this podcast is, usually my humble opinion, so thank y'all for hearing me out. The food fetish thing is just simply gross, okay? Regardless of your like size, not even involved, okay? I used to have to turn off the TV or close my eyes and plug my ears when those peeps on Fear Factor used to have to munch on hissing cockroaches or gigantic spiky bean worms or brains of some poor livestock that was sacrificed for the good of primetime TV. Do y'all remember that? Do y'all remember Fear Factor? Yeah. It was always like a bunch of model looking people or super athletic people or like stunt people looking people who were half clothed, and they were eating the most disgusting things. Again, just disgusting in my humble opinion. You may be a big fan of the texture and crunch of hissing cockroaches, but imagine if Fear Factor had cast people of different shapes and sizes. Be a totally different TV show, am I right? Because that's what we as society have been programmed to think and believe. And I feel like finally we're trying to bust through that. Finally, I mean, it's taken a long time. But y'all, back in the day, and Fear Factor wasn't even that long ago. That Paris Hilton commercial of 2005 was not that long ago. But that's how cruel we were to people who didn't fit, quote unquote, into a certain standard. I do love food. I do love food, as we know. Again, a lot of this podcast is about food and the foods I love, but I don't like making a mess of it. All right, so Samantha wearing the sushi bikini thing in the Sex and the City movie? Nope, yuck. Kenny and Mari making human tacos out of each other on The Bachelor in Paradise? Another major nope. I was disgusted, y'all. Oh, like, and why with the salty foods, right? Like, here's my thing. If you're going to have a food fetish, and some people will, I can understand it with like sweet foods, like cliche Valentine's Day food. Y'all get it? Valentine's Day theme. Hey, love is in the air. Like whipped cream, strawberries, chocolate. Okay, I get that. But to me, there's nothing sexier than just licking up some whipped cream and strawberries and chocolate off of a plate of Junior's cheesecake that was all your own, that you didn't have to share. Giving your loved one the gift of a whole pint of like Target's favorite day brand high protein mocha cold brew ice cream all to themselves, in my humble opinion, is one of the sexiest things you can do. And adding some so delicious, sorry microphone, Cocoa Whip coconut milk whipped cream, aka their version of Cool Whip, because your significant other remembered you did a whole podcast episode where you talked about how Cool Whip was the devil, is the second most sexy thing you can do with food. But something I'm going to tell y'all, if I have a food fetish, it is is not going to involve another person. Give me that Brooklyn blackout cake all to myself. Y'all, I think my fear of playing with food, of food messes, is also rooted in growing up infatuated with Danny Tanner. And I still am. Bob Saget, always, 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 and forever. God rest his soul, too. Always have loved him. Or maybe my fear of making messes with food is rooted in mama running a tight ship when it came to cleaning up and not making messes, because I was always terrified of making messes. To this day, I still get like terrified when I get food stains on my clothes. Right away, I have to like strip it off. Ooh, well, there's a sexy food fetish. Like, get a stain on your clothing and just strip it off and shout it out. All right, that was a tangent. I even have to close my eyes, y'all, when they have food fights on TV shows or movies. Like, oh, especially if condiments are involved. Oh, like nothing says gross to me like a blend of ketchup and mayonnaise. Oh, I know it's also like a special sauce at many fast food joints, but to me, it's like pure torture. And also, I think this fear and this triggering of the food fetish, food on top of people, food being made into a mess, food being wasted, is rooted in my grandparents, my mama and my mama. They were big into not wasting food, and they taught me creative ways to use the food and not let those bananas or beans or milk go bad, because they grew up in the Great Depression. So they taught me a thing or two. And I say that all entitled to stuff and stuff like my grandmas taught me a thing or two. They grew up in the Great Depression. Hell, y'all, most of this podcast's demographic, and I say that in quotes, right? Demographic of listeners have loved ones who grew up in the Great Depression. And why do I have to say all that like entitled and Karen styles, like or like a millennial, which technically I am? I would be like, yeah, like life was hard because Mima grew up in the Great Depression and had to like ration and stuff, like 100%. Well, you don't know 100% millennials until you've lived in the Great Depression and had to live 100% on just 10%. I mean, come on. Mama, if she saw someone, doing like a sexy move on TV involving, a food fetish, she would be like, 2 tablespoons of whipped cream just fell off her thigh and onto the floor. I could have used that for some Watergate salad. And Mama would be accurate. I think in a big old sexy walnut shell, what I'm trying to say here is that I'm so over the antiquated idea that it's cute and sexy and nice to watch a skinny, hot person eat like a beast, and that if a larger person so much as takes a nibble, it's bad, quote unquote, or it's like for some comedic gain. We all have to eat, regardless if we're large, small, short, or tall. This ends the rhyming section. Y'all, I can't be so highfalutin and say that I never jumped on the bandwagon to make fun of myself being a fat person gorging on food, okay? Like when I was heavier than I am now, but still at a point when I had lost about 30 pounds, I was feeling proud of myself. All right, let's put it this way. I was still plus-sized to the world, definitely still plus-sized to Hollywood, but in my own world, I was doing well. I was 30 pounds lighter than I had been a few years prior, but I was still auditioning for the bigger girl in the films. And in the films, I auditioned to be in a film where I would be a bigger girl beasting on food. And I thought, oh, like I did with a lot of stuff back in the day, a lot of, copy credit food. Yeah, all right. I thought this could really further my acting career along. I should do it. So after driving 2 hours one way to Bergen County, New Jersey from Brooklyn on a Sunday morning, do y'all think that a student film and role of big girl gorging on snacks in a montage ever got me any further in my career? No, it did not. And do y'all want to know what I had to gorge on, what they gave me to gorge on? Do y'all think it was something wonderful and lush and gorgeable? No, I had to put my acting chops to the test because they gave myself and the other girl stale Entenmann's donuts. I drove home after that, the taste of that waxy chocolate from the donut icing still stuck to the roof of my mouth, saying in my head, because I couldn't really talk because my mouth was still waxy, saying, nope, I'm never doing that again. And I haven't ever engaged in any activity where I made fun of myself and my size involving food or any food fetishes or any fat fetish activity since then. Or have I? Only kidding. Happy Valentine's Day, y'all. Remember, always love yourself, then love others. Love yourself. Hug yourself.
Thanks so much for listening, y'all. It is my hope to inspire, uplift, and entertain you with this Who's Dat Fat Girl podcast. So, if you're hungry for more, you can book me to speak or perform my solo show that inspired this podcast, Fat Girl Costumes, written by yours truly and directed by Brian Lady at your virtual or in-person event. Please visit brookehoover.com/fluffybuttproductions or email me at contactbrookhoover@gmail.com for more info. And let's follow each other on Instagram. I'm at Brooke Hoover, and the O's in my name are not the letter O, they're zeros. Not because I want to be a size 0, but because I guess I'm just so clever with my late 90s Yahoo self. And if you like this podcast, which I really hope you do, please give me a 5-star rating and write a review on Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, share this with your friends, family, and other people you may know who are as fat as we are. That's fat with a PH.